Alright, this is the second video in the Attributed Title Blocks project for Unit 1 in your Intermediate CAD class. I'm going to be picking up where I left off in the last video. The last video I just did my page setup. I kind of ended it right there where I drew the border, and now I'm going to be starting with drawing the geometry of the title block. So I'll move that over there, and I'm just going to follow these steps. So it says the mechanical title block is suitable for all non-architectural projects or drawings in this course. So you're going to be using this layout that you set up here, this mechanical title block, in pretty much every project except the little cabin that we're going to do. So we're going to use it for the op-amp schematic, the civil drawing, mechanical, 3D, all of that. So it says to set layer 0 current. We did have the border layer current when we drew the border, but we're going to put it back on layer 0. And it says if you wish, you can move the viewport out of the way. So this guy right here is the viewport. I'm just going to leave him put. He's fine. He's not going to be in my way. So now we're going to invoke the line command, it says. So we'll just start the line command. And it says here to make sure your O snaps and O tracks are on, and mouse over, but do not pick the lower right corner of the border to acquire that point. So I'm going to hover right here, and when I pull away, do you see how it left behind a little green plus mark there? That's using O track. So what's happening, I didn't click on that corner, I just hovered right there, and then which means I've acquired that point. I'm going to pull it up now, and then I'm going to start drawing a line from that point. The book says to type in 2, and notice I'm starting a line at 2 up from that corner right there. So I'm going to pull it out in the direction that I need it, and it says to draw a line that's 5 units. And then I'll just come straight back down and I'll snap it to perpendicular. And I've got the start of my title block. Now that I've got that, we're going to do the rectangular array. So it says to set the number of rows to 4 and the number of columns to 1. So I'm going to come in here to the array command, rectangular array, select the top line, press enter, and look what it does by default. It just throws in a bunch of rows and columns. So I'm going to set the number of columns to 1, the number of rows to 4, and underneath where I set the number of rows, the distance between, I'm going to set that to -0.5. And when I click away, you can see what happens. So it takes that array down 0.5, or in a down direction, and it's 0.5 in between each one of these guys. So I'll close that array, and it's looking good. We're going to come in here, and then we also need to do the offset command. The vertical line here, I'm going to do O for offset, and we need to make that vertical line 0.175. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. 1.75. There we go. Select the object to offset. I'm going to take this line, I'll bring it over 0.175, and then offset it 0.15. Actually, 1.5. I am so sorry, I'm saying that wrong. 1.5. Follow the book. It says the distances in the book for you, if I'm confusing you here. Now, one thing that happens is with this array command, once you do an array, it comes in like it's one piece. That's something they started doing, I think, around 2012, and which is helpful. It's nice because you can grab these grips and you can adjust the spacing, you can adjust how many of these things that you've got, but for our sake, we don't need that to be one piece anymore, so I'm going to come in here and explode. I'm going to explode this array so that they're just individual lines. And it says to go ahead and offset the second horizontal line down 0.25. So I'm going to offset 0.25 from here to here. Now it says to trim as necessary to make it look like the block. So I'm going to do the trim command. If you press enter right now, instead of selecting your cutting edges, everything you click on will disappear. So trim, trim. Oops, I should have trimmed right there. I need to go back and erase that line. And these guys right here, this needs to go. So I've got it looking like it should. Oops, I need this guy gone too. There we go. So this is what your title block should look like when you're done. The next step, it says, is to create the mechanical text styles. So we need to create 2 text styles in this drawing. I'm going to come over here to the Annotate tab. It pulls up the Annotate ribbon, and in this text panel here, I can see AutoCAD gives me 2 by default. I've got Annotative and I've got Standard. To create a new text style, you click on this tiny little arrow at the bottom right corner of the text panel, and it pulls up the text style window. I'm going to create a new one, and it says to make it Mech Text. I'll say OK to that, set the font to Arial, which it did by default, and be sure to uncheck, or it says to be able to check the box labeled annotative. So this Mech Text is going to be annotative. We'll talk about what annotative features are when we get into chapter or unit 3. So we'll talk about annotative text back then. But for now, we're just going to create a text style. I'll say apply. I'm going to create another one, and we'll call this Mech Text NA. And the only difference here is this one's not annotative. That's what the NA is for. So one of our Mech Texts is annotative, one Mech Text is not annotative. So you should have 2 of the little annotative scale symbols and 2 without. Apply. And it says set this text style current. So I'm going to click on this one and I'm going to say set current. And close, and I can see Mech Text NA is my current text style. The next part that I'm going to do is to add the cell labels to the mechanical title block. Now when we're looking at that title block, let me pull it up over here. This is what we're looking for right now. We're going to make these labels, and to make those labels, we're just going to follow this paragraph right here. Those labels are not going to be attributed, so that's just text that's going to stay in there. I don't need to change the text when I insert the title block on those areas. So I'm going to just create text. Now the book says to use dtext. Dtext, by the way, is exactly the same as single line text. Back before we had kind of the I don't know, the ribbons and toolbars and all of that. Dtext is what you had to type to get single line text. So anyway, single line text is what we're looking for, and it says for the insertion point, press Shift and right click. So Shift, right click. We're going to use the From OSNAP. What's nice about this is I get to click at that corner right now, so it's wanting to know where I want to start my text from, that corner. I'm going to do the @ symbol. You have to remember that @ part. 0.1, comma, -0.1. And you can see what happened here. So it came over on the X, 0.1, and down on the Y, 0.1, and this is going to be the start point for my text. Now it's asking me to give it the text height. I'll type in 0.0625. And the rotation of the text, I'll leave that at angle 0. And now I just start typing. Be sure to put your caps on. Anytime we're in CAD, we are using all caps, always. There's really not an exception to that. So the first thing I'm going to type is scale. I'm done with that, so I'll just press enter twice. The first enter thinks you want to put another line of text in there. The second enter ends that command. So I've got scale as my first label. You could keep repeating that for these other fields or these other labels, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do the copy command. So I'll come up here and copy, pick it up at that corner because I know that text is exactly where it needs to be. And I'm just going to copy it into these other boxes, and then I'll just change what it says. So the first one was scale, this will be date. This one is approval. This one is drawn by. And this one is drawing number. Alright, I'm done adding the labels. I've got my lines drawn. I'm going to end this video here, and the next video will be adding the attribute tags to the mechanical title block.